Welcome to Storycomic Presents, where we interview amazing storytellers and artists. This is episode 304. I'm your host, Barney Smith of Storycomic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally celebrated podcast personality, voice actor, and creator behind the indie comic series Treble, The Rhythm Within, Dre Daniels.
What's going on, good people?
Dre.
And thank you for having me, Barney. Over 300 episodes. That's insane. And I'm all for it.
You've been a podcast personality for many years. You have a very successful YouTube channel. You have a very successful podcast. You are everywhere when it comes to indie comics. You're a great advocate, mentor to a lot of people. It is been quite an honor to have you, finally come on. You're here now is because you're working also with Hades through the ASAP Imagination's Anyone world, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for the momentous introduction. I appreciate that very, very much so. I've been around for quite some time, and it's an honor and privilege to be one of the advocates for the indie sphere, as amongst many others. And this is an honor just to be on your show, to come and talk with you. This is really cool, Barney.
And so, Dre, you actually now have your comic book series Treble over at the Anyone World platform, correct?
Yes. That is absolutely correct. When me and Hades, we've had a working relationship for a couple of years now. I've actually interviewed him and Laurie when they were really first starting Anyone World and ASAP. At the time, it was called ASAP Comics. Before it was merged over the ASAP Imagination, I had them on my podcast a couple of years ago, and we hit it off so well, and we gelled like old friends, and ever since then we've had a really good working relationship. We've collaborated on projects together, some a little hush that we haven't put out into the sphere just yet, but so when he asked me to put my Treble series on his platform, I couldn't deny him. It was absolute gold, and I could not help but to add to his catalog. So I was very excited when he asked me to put my baby, my love child, on here. So I was very, very excited when he requested that of me.
So talk to us a little bit about Treble and what your series is about.
Absolutely. It's my favorite story to tell, Barney. Michael, I'm so excited. So the question I posed myself before writing this series was, what would happen if music gave you superpowers? That is the question I once posed to myself. And I posed this to myself when I was in middle school, when I posed this question to myself. But I did not have the linguistic or writing skills to actually put something together at that point. But over the years, I started writing certain short stories, and as I was able to gain my craft, and I've produced a few comic strips over the years. I used to go to Washington Post and all that stuff. And I was like, hey, I'm going to revisit my brainchild. And I'm like, yeah, we're going to do it. So I had to study first the mental, emotional, psychological, and stereotypical aspects of music and how it affects the human brain before I went into how I was going to make the powers. So what I wanted to do, I wanted to put it in a world that I understood. So I grew up in Washington, D.C., so I wanted to put it in Washington, D.C. so that it's a melting pot, and there'd be things that I knew that I can actually control in my own brain canon, because I knew where everything was. And I grew up listening to all types of different music. I come from a musical family. I have family members that are jazz musicians. I have family that's into opera. I've had families that are hip hop artists. Like, I come from a very, very musical family. Oh yeah, and indie rock, yes, also in my family.
Okay.
So I was like, hey, I know music. I'm going to do this. So one thing I did, I sat down and started crafting the genres and how it would be reflected in my story. So my main character is Zamir Green, and it's the name Zamir means songbird, and
Okay.
it's the last name Green is a tribute to my mother's maiden name. and I wanted to make this character feel like how I felt when I was like a teenager, you know. So it's like a lot of folks like, oh, it's a self insert. I said, not really. It's not really a self insert. A lot of people that I grew up with look like this, so it's like not really a self insert. Um, but so when I took the music, I wanted to think about what certain music made me feel like. So when I think of rock, I think of aggression. I think of high energy. I think of
Mm.
like, crowd surfing, all that type of high energy stuff. So I was like, hey, when he listens to rock music, it's going to be a physical transformation and a mental transformation. So his physical transformation, he gets much bigger and stronger, and he has enhanced adrenaline and energy, and he
Cool.
becomes a bit more aggressive in the head.
See,
So I kind of carried that around for each of the other genres that I featured in this arc, and it went off like gangbusters. So I couldn't be more happy for how well this arc, well, the series in general turned out. It was a lot of fun to write, and a lot of the folks that have picked up the books, they really like it, and they're looking forward to my next series. And I'm like, hey, everybody, pump the brakes. You know, it's taking a while to put together. And so I'm starting to write the next series while I'm making the trade paperback for this arc here. So the work never ends, but it was such a joy to do.
and so talk to us a little bit about the world building aspect of this, so that you came up with a concept of how people get superpowers based off of the music. Um, from there, how did you kind of expand out villains and then the world, and if there's any like science and then super, like all that stuff, origins and everything?
Excellent question, Barney. And it's actually, I love doing this. I love telling this part. So once again, as I mentioned earlier, I did a lot of in-depth study of my region that I grew up in, so I can understand how the rogues gallery can work.
Right.
So how the story works is the water treatment plant is poisoned by a mutagen, by our main villains. It's poisoned by a mutagen, but it only affects people with O negative blood. That's the
Oh,
only
cool.
ones that the mutagen affects. Now, why O negative blood? O negative blood is very rare as far as blood types in the Washington D.C. area. It's
Mm.
said that about at the time of me creating the story anyway. Time we created the story, it was about 5% of Washington D.C. had that blood. So very rare. So it'll be rare enough for me to create a rogues gallery around that blood type, so
Cool.
that I don't just randomly pick and choose a bunch of random people. We know how people are infected. So the infection comes only if you had that blood type.
Hmm.
So with that, I wanted to make the mutagen a viral. I wanted to make it viral. So I created a world in which this virus, which I must specify, I wrote this before COVID was even an idea. Let me caveat that when I wrote it, the virus infected people. Then people started having fear of the people that were infected, and that. People started disappearing, and like all these people that disappeared, they return either later in this series or in my next series, so on and so forth. And they, of course, they return with abilities and powers. And it's like with the picture that you have up here, I'm glad you have issue eight's cover up here, because the character in the top right, um, Sharkbait, is my favorite character that I put in this joint. I'm a big villain guy, Barney.
Right.
Huge on villains. I like villains more than heroes any day, any day. And like crafting his story was actually the funnest one to put together.
Okay.
A man-made monster is my favorite type of thing in the world,
Hmm.
especially when he doesn't want to be a monster, but he is one now. Oh, chef's kiss. And like his story arc covers in issues 4 and 5, and it goes so well with the fear and paranoia that's going on in the city because of what has transpired. So it was easy to build a world around a poison. It's easy that way, and I took inspiration from, well, as everyone, inspiration from X-Men and other things like that. But one of my main inspirations was Static. A lot of people, it's kind of low key, but Barney, I'm sure you're very well versed in in how DC's, well, it became more popular on Static Shock. I made a cartoon maybe about 20 years ago,
Right. Yeah.
and but before that, it was the comic from the 90s, which I took a bit of inspiration from because his Static's Rogues Gallery was called the Bang Babies, and I loved that name so much because they had the Big Bang in Dakota City. Here, the disease that's poisoning everyone is called the Chills. So the Rogues
Okay.
Gallery is called the Children.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But it's ChILLDREN instead of
Oh,
one
that's
L.
clever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So I took inspiration from that, which I thought was pretty fun, and a lot of people that picked it up, some caught on, some very savvy readers caught on. It's like, hey, I remember this from Static number 12. Like, oh, okay, there we go. You're hip, you're hip, you're hip. So I really enjoyed that, and the world building was really, really easy. And I stick pretty much to the hero's journey with this character arc for Zamir, aka Treble. I stick with that because this is the world's first introduction to this character. So you want to see him learn, you want to see him grow, you want to see him take some L's so that when he actually wins, you celebrate. You celebrate. And because me, I'm not into the Mary Sue route and all that stuff. I'm not into that. So
Right.
seeing this character grow and learn and lose and until he finally achieves a victory, I think is very well rewarding, and I think the reading public is definitely appreciated how that story arc works. So the world building was easy, and I had a lot of fun.
Mm. Uh, so what would you say also as a comic book writer is which other writers are an inspiration to you with the
Ooh,
world you've
that's
created?
a very good question. So my inspirations are, I'll give you two. I'll give you two there, Barney. One is the Easy Money, Chuck Dixon, who has influenced everybody from DC, Marvel, Dark Horse, name it. Like his
Okay.
inspiration is everywhere in my entire generation of writers, easily so. The other one is a bit more obscure, and his name is Sean McKeever. Now, for those that don't know who
Okay.
Sean McKeever is, he was a writer for a lot of anime-esque American style comics for Udon. Now, Udon did like Street Fighter, a whole lot of game to comic books. They did a lot of
Okay.
that. But one of his writings that really inspired me was called Sentinel. Now, it was literally about like X-Men Sentinel, but
Okay.
the story was written about a young boy who lived in a junkyard who finds a severely damaged Sentinel, reprograms it, and it becomes like his friend. And it was like captivating, it was heartfelt, and there was like aspects of it that I saw in myself with this character. Because this character grew up not with a lot of money. He lives in a junkyard. He's not doing well for himself, So like, and I took a lot of inspiration from that. I didn't grow up with a lot of money. I didn't grow up in an environment that was, rah rah, elevate everybody. So to see that and then to see the inspiration of how it was written, all the characters felt real. They felt
Mm.
alive. Um, like he had this love interest, and spoiler alert, it he doesn't get the girl at the end. Like there's so much of it that I connected to myself. And I read that story so many times, and to see how the world work, how even when certain mutants show up in that story, how it blends so well, and the art, it popped. The writing was top tier. It was
Mm.
one of my favorite arcs of all time, including like I always said several times, I was born with a Batman comic in my hand. I got so many copies of Dark Knight Returns up there. It's gonna definitely hurt my wallet every time I think about it. But those two, I think, were my main inspirations, especially for this particular story arc. The art style I think was also influenced by Udon, because like when I was looking for my artist, which is Federico Corsini, shout outs to you, big dog. I wanted someone that will be able to bring that art style to this comic in particular, because I don't think this comic would work in the traditional American art style. I don't think it
Mm,
would have worked as well. So, shout outs to him. Shout outs to my boy. Um, because I think I wanted that American anime style because I wanted the pops, I wanted the colors, I wanted to feel larger than life, but at the same time feel realistic. So it came out pretty well. But definitely I think Sean McKeever was a huge inspiration, especially him not being as mainstream as other creators. And of course Chuck Dixon is legendary, so it's but yeah, but I'll say those two were my main
okay.
inspirations. I'm pretty sure there's others definitely, but I think those two were the meat and potatoes.
Was there any comic book writers that you originally didn't like very much that now you seem to have a renewed appreciation for?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, there's one that's been on the fence for years that I have a love hate relationship with, and that's Tom King. Tom
Mm,
King, I have a love hate relationship with. Like if we're going back, we're doing talking like Kingdom Come and all them other capitals of industry, like it's chef's kiss. But then you'll have like so then you'll have like Heroes in Crisis that actually was released recently,
right.
relatively recently, and I'm like, bruh, like we jumped the shark a little bit about just focusing on the mental aspects of heroes, and the story really got muddled pretty bad. But then he'll release a Rorschach book that's top tier, and I'm like pick a side, pick a side, man. And and that's like I think he's that guy, because he's the one where I'm like man, oh god, you're great, but then it's like what the heck. I think it's got to be Tom King because usually everyone else I'm pretty even keel on.
Okay.
Like if I loved you back in the day, I still kind of love you now. The nostalgia bite will get me. But I think
Mm,
Tom King came straight to my head right when you asked that question. So I'm gonna stick with that answer. I'm gonna stick
okay.
with that answer. Yeah. Yeah, I'll roll with that. But so we'll see what he comes out with now. But that Rorschach book that came out, I believe it was last year. I'm pretty sure because I got it on a shelf somewhere. It was really good and I really enjoyed it. So Tom King, keep doing good stuff. Keep doing good stuff. Don't revert back. Keep doing good stuff.
So as you mentioned, the series is Treble. Is it's 8 issues? That's it, or is this still an ongoing series?
So this arc is 8 issues.
Okay.
The title is Treble.
Right.
That's the core title. The arc is The Rhythm Within. That is the arc. That is the 8 issue arc.
Okay.
And I wanted it to be, how can I put this simply, long enough but not too long. I
Okay.
think 8 issues is a nice origin arc for a character. I think it's
Right.
nice. I think because we get to know this character, we get to know the what the point is, what he wants to achieve, who his friends are, the issues, blah 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 blah. We can have a good crescendo and we can have some good falling action without overstaying our welcome. And
Mm,
as I like to call this arc is my A New Hope. It's my A New Hope arc.
right.
As far as I'm concerned, we learn about the characters, blah blah blah. And there's an issue, and then at the end, we finally achieve it. My next arc is going to be essentially my Empire Strikes Back, pretty
Oh,
much.
okay.
Uh, in my story arcs, and then my third one will be the Return of the Jedi. That's the
Okay.
best way I can put it. So we have this arc is like, hey, we to get people invested in who this character is, to love who this character is and what he represents. The next arc is going to be putting him in the freaking fire, and in the freaking fire, and everything is going to go horribly wrong. And then our final
Okay.
one is going to be how he gets out of them flames and finally achieves ultimate victory. So I think 8 issues here was good. My next arc, I think as of today, as of writing so far, it's gonna be longer. It's gonna be a bit longer than 8 issues. This one, this one might have some stretchy power here. I still haven't put a solid number on it just yet because I'm still writing the arc. But it's gonna be lengthy. It's gonna be lengthy. It's gonna be lengthy. I might have to break it up into uh, minor graphic novels, and I might have to do that the way this is going. But as of right now, it's definitely gonna be longer than 8. But that's an excellent question, Barney. Thank you.
Now, so because as a comic book writer, as a creator as well, how do you have a stack of unfinished ideas and work that you haven't been able to get to yet?
Oh my, Barney, you have no idea. You have no idea how much crap I have stacked up in one of these folders on this on this computer here. There was one that I wanted to revisit that I wrote back in 2010, called
Okay.
Pandemonium, that never saw the light of day.
Wow.
Which was at the time it was going to be a traditional novel, but then I got bored with it. But it was going to be a traditional novel, but I'm in the midst of thinking about revisiting it. I'm actually also dipping my toes in. Well, actually, I dipped my toe a few years ago in a. Don't laugh at me. A dramatic romance.
Okay.
A
Good for
dramatic
you.
romance, and that is still collecting some dust there as well. Untitled as of now, but collecting dust. I also had in my dead folder, as I like to call it, a western. It was gonna be action
Okay.
adventure western in the DC universe, and it's gonna be like someone that was Jonah X esque, in that world, that so like he like this character is going to be in that universe with like Jonah Hex and kind of things, stuff like that. So like there's so much crap in that folder that some of it, like some of it, I think if I peel the layers back and actually be gold. But as of right now, it's in my trash bin. It is in my trash
Right.
bin, but it could be something really good. But I'd have to really hunker down and stop doing all my other projects that I'm working on and really try to focus on it. But yeah, but I haven't really. Oh
Right.
man, boy, now you got me thinking about it. Don't make me think about it.
What is you so then let me ask you this then as a
Sure.
comic book adjacent question then is like what is your writing kryptonite? What's your big
Ooh,
writing weakness?
I mean, writer's block is always the easy answer, right? Writer's block
Mm,
is always the easy answer. But for me, my kryptonite is first of all, okay. First of all, my main kryptonite is obsession of how the story interconnects. That's my first one. I
okay.
am obsessed with my story making sense. Like you might think to yourself, shouldn't you do that anyway? Yes, obviously you should. But it's so easy to get wrapped up in something else that the story can be neglected. Case in point.
Right.
I could be so focused. Like let's take Sharkbait for instance. My favorite character right in the entire series. I took a moment. I got so wrapped up in his arc, I completely neglected how I was going to intertwine it to make it make sense in the
Mm,
greater story. Like I literally had to take a break from writing the AB story for issues 4 and 5 to be like, Sharkbait, I'm gonna have to screw you right now. I've got to figure out how we're going to get our hero to intertwine with the story that I'm going with right now. So that's
right.
one of the things. And then I obsess over that a long time because I'm in love with Sharkbait. I'm in love with that. That's my dude. But I had to really sacrifice quite a bit. And not to mention, I had to cut a lot of his arc down just so I can make the page requirements pretty
Right.
much. So I can easily get caught up in that because I can get so excited about a character that, because once it's in your brain, it's fine. But when it's on the paper, it becomes alive.
Right.
So that's definitely one of those things. My other kryptonite, which I think a lot of other writers deal with, is I wouldn't call it kryptonite, but I always have to focus on direction for my artist. I have to put a lot of focus on that because once again, it's a good problem to have, but once again, obsessive problem to have.
Mm.
How I write all my comic scripts, because I've trained in drama and stuff like that, so I write them like stage directions. I
Right.
write them as stage directions. Like some panelists don't like doing that or whatever the case may be, but me, I have to write. I've spent like a day writing one panel on one page, and like the panel description is like scroll, like
Mm.
like it like so I guess ultimately my kryptonite is obsessiveness. I think that's what it is. I think I have to come to grips, Barney, that I have an obsessive
Yeah.
personality and there's something wrong with me. I think that's what I have to say. I think it's an obsessive personality because I want it to be perfect so badly. I want it to be
Right.
perfect so badly, and I want people to see my vision so ferociously that I can get lost in where I was actually going to begin with. And I have to
Right.
reel my fish back in. And so I think that's it. I think that's it, Barney. I have to come to grips with that.
Who's the audience for your comics? Are you making this because this is a story you want to tell, or is this something that you is the comic book for your readership, or is this comic book for you?
That's an excellent question, Barney. And I'll be honest, it's a bit of both. It's a
Yeah.
bit of both. When I started writing this story, it was originally just for, and this case was originally just for me,
Mm.
because I didn't quite understand understand where um the modern reader was going at the time. Let me put
Okay.
it that way. Where the modern reader was going at the time, because there's some things in DC that I didn't agree with. There's some things in Marvel I didn't agree with. There's some things in Dark Horse, Image, name it. There was a lot of stuff I didn't agree with, and the viewership was dwindling. But I was like, I'm not sure what the viewing public likes, but I know I like well told stories. And
Mm.
that's where it kind of started. And then when I saw that people that got my book were like, "Hey, I like where this is going. I'm really enjoying this. I would like to see more. Hey, you left me on a really crazy cliffhanger. What happens next?" I'm like, "Oh snap, people like this." I'm like, "Oh my god." I said, "Let me keep up doing what I'm doing." So what I had to come to grips with was the overwhelming majority of the reading comic public likes what I like.
Right.
A well-told story, a well-crafted story, characters that you can get behind, characters that you want to hate. Like the overall majority are into that. So it
Right.
ended up transforming into, hey, this is just a story. It's a love note to comics from yesteryear in the 80s and 90s and stuff. It's a love letter. It turned into that. And then it transformed into, wow, modern audiences actually still like what was.
Right.
And I'm like, yo, okay. So, I mean, luckily for me, I wrote it in a way that I did not have to make many corrections when it was going to board. So I'm like,
Right.
hey, people like it, people are excited, people are having fun. We have ourselves a recipe. So I'm like, yeah, so it rolled. But that was an excellent question, Barney. Excellent
Yeah.
question. I appreciate it.
With that said, when you sit down to write, does it energize you or does it exhaust you?
Writer's block is real. Writer's block is
Mm.
a very real thing, and many people have it for many different reasons. Some is like you just don't know where the story wants to go, blah 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 blah, yeah yeah yeah. But for me, my writer's block comes from how, once again, back to the obsessive part. It drains me when I can't mesh it the way I want. Like when things are cooking, like gangbusters. But right
Mm.
when I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I understand how I'm going to end this issue, but how am I going to segue this into the next? And that's where I start hitting that wall. And that's when I start
Okay.
getting exhausted and tired. And I gotta put my pen down and be like, okay, I'm gonna go play some Streets of Rage and I'm gonna figure this out later. And so it can be draining. So it's a little bit of both there, Barney.
Right.
Like when I'm cooking, but when that wall is hit, I definitely have to take a huge step back. Definitely.
Right. So what kind of advice would you give for aspiring comic book writers?
Ooh, first thing I'll always tell aspiring comic writers, just start putting it on paper. Period. Put it
Mm.
on paper. No matter how ridiculous, no matter how insane, no matter how stupid you may think whatever your story is or wherever it's going, put it on paper because then it becomes real. Because once it becomes real, then you can watch it grow. Then you can watch it change. Then you can watch like, hey, you know what? What I wrote 3 pages ago sounds like trash. Now that I've gotten this far, let me go back, revisit this, and like, ooh, that fits better. Ooh, I like that more. Ooh, it's imperative you put it on paper. And number two, ignore the naysayers. Ignore the naysayers because there's always going to be people, always going to be people that's going to tell you, oh, it's not good enough. Oh, it sucks. Blah, 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 blah. As I like to say, if these people are not credible, show them the door. That's always my thing. I like as my grandmother used to say, never take stupid advice from stupid people. And that's one of the things that I would definitely advocate. I'm like, hey, if it's somebody that is, let's say, let's just say, I'm not trying to toot my own horn or nothing. That's not my point. But like, let's say somebody had wrote a script and they're like, hey, I want to know my honest feelings on it. I would take my words more credibly than a random troll on the internet. That's the way I would consider it. And I think that's a big two. Third thing, if you are strictly a writer and not an artist or anything else, get a good team behind you. It is imperative to have a good team. Me, I was lucky. I was very lucky because I can write, I can direct, I can edit. I have a lot of the skills already. But these are all thumbs, Barney. All thumbs. So the art I can't do. And I was able to find a great artist that was willing to contend with my insanities. A great artist. And me and him we built something beautiful. So it's imperative. I think that third one, definitely have a good team behind you. Maybe you're a good writer, maybe you're a terrible editor. Maybe you don't know direction very well. Maybe you can't produce to save your life. Get a good team that's going to back your play. I know a lot of people in the industry, a lot of indies guys that have put a lot of good teams together. A lot of good teams. Editors, writers, producers, directors, artists, inkers, colorists, like putting a whole team together to make something beautiful. If you don't have all the skills, don't be ashamed. Don't be ashamed. Get a good team. So, put it on paper, ignore the naysayers, and put a good team together. I think anybody starting out, they'll be a-okay.
So Dre, if people want to learn more about your work, where's the best place they could go to?
Oh, well, that's tremendous. So you can always, if you want to check out my work, you can always check me out on anyoneworld.com. I love that site, and I love everybody on 87 can check out my work there. One of my other sites is spinwiz.com. If you're into getting hard copies and you love having them in your hands, this is one of my flagship ones that you can get print on demand, sent right to you. If you want anything custom, you can always hit me up directly on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it now, at DaBrute00 on Twitter. That's one of the easiest ways to contact me. I'm always on Twitter, usually doing something ridiculous or doing something. Also, you can hit me up on YouTube at the Brutal Planet Comics YouTube channel. You can send me private messages there. You can comment on my videos or what have you. I'd love to hear from everybody. I'd love to hear your responses. I'm on Facebook here and there, so you definitely can check out my Facebook, and that's fine. But usually, hit me up on Twitter. Twitter, that is the best way to Twitter. You know what it is. At DaBrute00. That's the best way to get in contact with me. And that's the best way to keep up with all the updates that I'm doing because I got something very, very, very special cooking up very soon, which I'm not going to make public just yet, but I am fired up about it. But when it is going public, oh, Delali is going to be glad. Hit me up on Twitter. I love to hear from folks. Just hit me up and say hello. It's good enough for me. I like a hello.
Well, listen, Dre, you got to come back on when you're ready for that next project. When that's coming
make
to
no mistake,
fruition.
Barney. It is going to melt. So, and I'll definitely love to come back on and drop all the nuggets on you, because I'm telling you, you're gonna be fired up. You're gonna be fired up for this one.
Well, thank you so much, Dre.
Oh, the pleasure was all mine, Barney. Thank you for taking the time to come and having me on your on your great podcast to come and share my work with you and your viewing audience. This is a pleasure, and as one podcaster to another, you're doing a great thing for the indie sphere. Keep up that great work, and anybody else that's in the independent sphere that wants somebody to talk to, that's the guy. Barney's the guy. I want to talk to him. Absolutely, and he has great questions. So yeah, absolutely. Do that. That's for sure.
Thank you.
Let me bring that money back for a second. Oof, that hurt my head. Sean McKeever. Good Lord. Wow. That now I go. My goodness. Okay, I'm ready, Barney. I'm ready.
Okay, go for it.
Yeah. So my inspiration